Okay, just to recall what we learned, basically we can actually always produce a subroutine, right? So we just type sub and we can name it whatever we want. Let's say, for example, the first one, we name it first, right? As we press enter, we will immediately get an end sub. So this happens for a lot of programming languages. They will just immediately bracket your work inside something like this. You know, we have the end sub immediately, right? So you want to declare your variable, so you just put dim for dimension, right? Let's say we name it something dim message as string, right? And as we press enter, as you can see, the formatting is automatic. When I type it, it's actually in small caps, right? But immediately it changes to, or some are capital letters and some are small cap, right? So it's a combination of capitals, and at the same time the coloring changes as well, right? As the compiler or the programming behind this realizes that these are specific terms inside VBA. Right, so now we're gonna assign what is the value of message. Right, so it's just like that. Hello world. Then we just have it getting out in the immediate window. So we're just gonna see debug dot print, and then we just see message, and we can go ahead and run it now, and we get hello world. So I'm just gonna get rid of some of the spaces here and then continue with the next subroutine. Sub, let's name it second because it's our second subroutine, and then close, open and close bracket, and again immediately we get that automatic end sub, right, to say that this is part of the second coding or second subroutine. Now, something about VBA which is different from a lot of programming languages. I think you can see a horizontal line here. So again, this is something which is very visual. For a lot of programming languages, you cannot actually write two programs or two subroutines like this, right? When you code for one, you have to code it all the way. If you want something else, you have to create a function or something and run it at the same time, meaning your compiler won't be able to differentiate whether you want to run the first subroutine or the second subroutine. But VBA, you can do that. You can actually have you can actually go to a particular subroutine and then run, and only that subroutine runs. So this is something different from VBA. I'm gonna set another variable here, declare another variable, but I'm gonna name it the same thing, message, right? And but I'm gonna give it a different value. Let's see, we give it hey world. Okay, and then again I'm gonna print it in the immediate window, right, and see how it goes. So we are here, we have the same variable. So what will happen now, which one will actually be printed? So I'm just going to run that, and we get hello, hey world. So sometimes this is something that we want to name something the same, for example, but because I ran out of names to actually name my variable. But actually this is not good programming practice, where you actually have the same variable names and then you do something, because you might get confused, and or you have your cursor, cursor in another program, so a different program, different subroutine is active, and then you run it and then you get a result that you don't really want, right? So it's not really good programming practice unless if you really want that to happen, meaning to say that if you really want something to be a constant, then you should declare that as a constant. For example, I can say constant message as string, and then I declare it immediately what's up world. So when you declare constant, This is something that you can actually get in all of your programs, right? So that's WhatsApp World, and I'm going to, instead of MSG, I'm gonna have the immediate window print message instead, and I'm just gonna play that, and we get WhatsApp World, right? And here as well we get message, and then run it, and we get WhatsApp World as well. And just to get rid for confusion, we'll just delete it first, right? So I'm in my second subroutine now, and I run it, and I get WhatsApp World. And first subroutine, I run it, I get WhatsApp World as well, right? The same goes if we put it inside our text box inside Excel, right? I can just say message box, right? So I just run it, and I get WhatsApp World here as well. So we've covered local variables, which are variables you can create within a subroutine, and it's only active or usable within that subroutine. So dim message tree as string, for example. So here message tree will only be active within the third subroutine. We've also covered constants, where you can actually use it across subroutines, but the downside to it is it's a constant, so you can only use one particular value for it. What if you want a variable, I only want to declare it once and use it over and over, and I can change it within my subroutines? What I can do with regards to this is I can actually use the global variable. The global variable is different from the local variable, where you can only use inside a particular subroutine. It's also different from the constant, where you cannot change it, right? So I'm just want to create a global variable now, but to be able to do that, I have to create a module, right? So I'm just going to right click here and then insert module, and here I can just declare my global variable, global, let's say student as string, right? So as you can see now, Excel, now VBA identifies these objects such as global and student and etc., these specific terms, and the color changes. And I'm going to view code for this one. Now I'm going to use student name. Let's say the first student is Najmuddin, for example. Right now, I should be able to print this wherever I want. Right? Let's say debug print student, for example. Oopsie, I'm going to stick with the print. I use print instead, and just run that, and we get Najmuddin here. Right? So it's nice to have something like this where you can actually change it according to where you are. We only create it once. So as you can see, you might work on a big project and you don't want to declare things over and over again. You're just referring to the same thing. So you might want to then just have several global variables where you can use it across different subroutines. Here I can just, again, I don't have to declare it. I can have a different name, student, new student or something, and then I debug print it. Right, so I don't have to declare the same variable again. Then I get a new student. Right, so that's the concept of a global variable. We're now going to explore the other variables, namely integer as well as single, which is integer, which is numbers without decimal points. Numbers without decimal points. going to get rid of the third subroutine here first, right? So we get a bit more space, and then single, right, which are numbers with limited decimal points. Right, so first we're going to explore the integer. Now if you feel that there are some lines of codes that you have already written and you feel that, hey, maybe I'm going to use it again later, you can just turn those into comments like this. Then if you want to use them again, you can activate them by getting rid of the apostrophe, right? Whereas if you feel that, you know what, I'm not going to use them anymore, you can just delete them just like that, right? And then start coding the next one. Let's say I'm gonna again declare a variable which is an integer type, right? So dim integer number as integer, right? So there might be certain things inside VBA which is specified as a specific term. For example, I won't be able to declare and you won't be able to use them as variable names. For example, I shouldn't be able to name sub as integer, right? So it will immediately complain this is an error because sub is a specific word which is being used as something else. It's for short for subroutine, so I won't be able to use that as a variable name. So this is just a few pointers lah, right? So now we're gonna assign a value for integer num, let's say 9, right? And then we're just gonna get it out there inside our immediate window, debug print integer num, right? We'll have that. Okay, so let's test out. Let's see, what if we want a decimal point here, 9.1, right? And we run it, we still get 9. What if it's 9.12? We still get 9. The point is, integers are numbers without decimal points. It will only show you the rounded parts, the round parts, so the non-decimal parts. Right, so we get 912 there. So I'm just going to get rid of these. Alright, so next let's have the same integer number, but this time around we have it as a single. Right. So as a single, same thing, if we just only put 9, we should only get that as a result. But if we put 9.1, we get a different result. Right. So now we're going to test out this limitation. What is this limitation really? What's the limit? Right. Let's put 9.12. Run it. We'll still get it. 9.123. We'll still get it. 9.1234. It's still okay. I'm gonna get rid of some of these. Right. What about 5? Let's get 9.12345. What about 6? Get 9.1234556. 7. 7 is still good. Oh, 7 is no longer good, meaning to say this is the limit. The limit is 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the limit. Right? So when we put this, of course, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 rounded off to the nearest place value, we get a 0.7 instead, right? So this immediately upgraded to a 7 due to this, right? Of course, so we now know that the limit is limit of decimals is actually equal to 6. Alright, so that's that. Then you can always do calculations with your numbers. And with regards to calculations, it follows mathematical logic, right, or mathematical discipline. For example, let's declare another integer. Right? So instead of integer now, maybe we use something shorter, right? And let's turn this into a comment first. Dim A, B, B, and C. C is single. Right, so A is that, B is 0.13, C is 7.28, for example. Right, and we are going to debug print A plus B plus C. Oopsie. Right, so let's see how that goes. So get that kind of value. It's a bit messed up. Right, so we get 18 point something something. We can do minus, for example. Let's make this simpler for us. Let's put it as 9, 7, and 5, and turn these as integers instead of singles. It's easier to keep track of things, right? So we get a 21. Can play around with the mathematical. So that should be 9 plus 7, 16 minus 5 should be 11. Alright, so we get an 11. If it's this, it will be left to right. So 7, 9 minus 7 is 2, plus 5 is 7. Right, so you can do play around with the symbols, mathematical symbols. So of course we have, basically we have these mathematical symbols. You know your plus and your minus. Plus for addition, this is for subtraction, this is for multiplication, and this is for division, right? And it follows the maths hierarchy, meaning to say that if it's multiplication and division, it will go left to right. Same goes with addition and subtraction, left to right. But of course, what's inside a bracket or parenthesis will be done first, right? So this is first, followed by this, left to right, followed by that, left to right. Right, so whatever inside a bracket will be done first. So that is a little bit more on variable and a little bit on calculation. Now we are going to try and get some user input, right? And hence I'm just gonna get rid of some of these and maybe declare a global variable. Right, so view code and just declare it as global variable. Num input as integer. So we have now input as an integer there. Right, so we're gonna return to this code, view code, and we are going to assign a value to num input here. Here we're talking about user input, meaning the user can actually say something and we record that as an input, right? So I'm just gonna use num input, right, is equal to input box, right? And then the message that you want to put inside the input box, let's say you say please input an integer, right? and then you can choose to wherever you want this input to be. Let's say we want it to be in the debug print. Right, so we have created a global variable here called num input, and we have used that global variable within our fourth subroutine. And in terms of the value for that global variable num input, we're going to get it from an input box, which we'll see in Excel. Right, so we're just going to run this. Right, as you can see here, we actually get this message box that says, please input an integer. I'm just going to give it, for example, 19, and OK, and 19 will appear here. Right, let's run that again. Right. Let's give it 27, for example. OK, and we get 27 there. Okay, let's see, what if we want it within Excel? That works too. Right, so we can just choose location in Excel that we want it to appear, or we can have it in message box as well. Right? Message box. So you remember doing this. Simple integer, we have number 38, for example. And OK. Right, so 38 will appear here, but at the same time 38 will appear at the debug print immediate window because we had the debug print. Let's say we want it inside a range in Excel, inside a cell in Excel, right? So we can just say range, let's say B2 dot value, and then just put num input, right? Just delete this first, and so we give it again a different number, 41, for example. Right, so it appears here, and then it appears here, and then it should also appear at the cell, right, B2. Now here, bear in mind that it goes from top to bottom, right? So it goes through line by line. It gets here, it prompts the user, please input an integer. Then you get the value from the user. First thing is actually this will actually appear. Then we immediately see the message box. Then we get this. The reason that we saw this first is because our interface then was Excel, meaning to say that we were inside the sheet when it prompted us, so we immediately get the value inside the message box here, but not yet here, right? In reality, this will appear first before the message box, and then we'll get this. Because the message box actually has a prompt that says OK, meaning we actually have to click on OK. That means it's a natural pause. We pause it was paused here for OK, right? So we are naturally paused because the user has to click on OK. Then only we see this, right? So that is user input. If you want to, you can play around and have calculations here, for example, times b, for example. So I want the value in range b2 to be multiplied by b, right? And then the value in debug print to be, let's turn this into comments first so that we don't get confused, right? So let's focus on the range in b2, right? So we're going to have a different number here after this program runs, right? So what happens is I'm just going to have inside b2 there will be a number input by the user, and it will be multiplied by b, which is a 7 here, right? Let's just run it, input integer. Let's say, for example, we have 5 times 7 should be 35, and OK. Go back here, it should be 35, right? So that is having calculation within your output, right? You can play around some more. You can have inside the debug print, we can have it as num input plus a, for example, and then within the message box is num input minus c, for example. Right, so same input, just have, let's say, a 20 lah. Right, so 15, 20 minus 5 is 15. Right, that was a 20. Message box is 20 minus 5. Right, this one is debug print is 20 plus 9. Actually, I don't have to put the bracket there. Right, and this one is 20 times b is 7. Right, so that should be 140 lah. So it's 140. Right, so that's how you have user input, and then even a little bit of calculation with outputs and etc.